What's good? It's Woog. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. We're just in the wake of that. So the general takeaway from people who saw the fight was that Wilder got outboxed by Tyson Fury, and essentially his punching power saved him with the two knockdowns of Tyson Fury, one in the 9th, one in the 12th. And that the 12th round was an extremely dramatic conclusion to a pretty one-sided fight. I'm gonna get back to that in a second, but that was one hell of a 12th round. So you got two undefeated fighters coming in, and we knew, or at least those that were in the know knew, that Tyson Fury was a superior technical boxer to Deontay Wilder. One of Wilder's biggest advantages, aside from his power, has been his height and his length. Now, in this fight, he was the shorter guy in the ring, so that played a part, especially when that taller guy can move and is a master of angles the way that Tyson Fury is. So he would throw a jab, a hard jab, and then he would do those feints where Wilder isn't sure if he's throwing a punch or not, because Fury is constant movement. Even when he's no longer moving his feet, he's moving his fists in a bald bull kind of way to just give the opponent something to look at, something to worry about, because at a certain point you have no idea what Fury's gonna do, and if you are not prepared for the punch he does throw, that's gonna hurt you, as evidenced in the second half of the fight where Fury started to sit down on his punches, and all of a sudden in like the 8th and 9th round you would start seeing these straight right hands that had this thunderous pop, and they were thrown very fast and very hard right hands from Fury, and everybody's like, where the hell did that come from? Wilder better watch out, because during this whole fight you got the impression that Wilder was the hunter and Fury was the hunted. My biggest concern was that although Fury possessed the tools to make this a very competitive fight and to potentially beat Wilder, that his big layoff of around 2 years, his ballooning of weight to about 400 pounds, and his drug and alcohol abuse and overall inactivity in the ring was going to catch up with him. So even if he did come out to a 4 rounds out of 5, you know, winning 4 out of the 5 first rounds type of start, that by the second half of the fight that he would be in for it, that his body just wouldn't be able to support what would be required of him to move enough to not get destroyed by Deontay Wilder for 12 rounds. So again, even if he was going to have a good first half of the fight, there's no way that his legs, his cardio, his body would be able to carry him with that same movement through the second half of the fight. The later the fight went, once you start getting into the 8th, there was a lot of concern because it just seemed like Wilder was just giving up round after round. Not intentionally giving up round after round, but that Tyson was controlling the majority of the action. So Fury would jab and move around, and he would circle to Wilder's left hand so that if Wilder wanted to punish him with that right hand, he would have to reach across his body. It wasn't a natural angle, and it made Fury a lot more difficult to hit with, especially when you've got this 6'9" guy who's also changing levels from high to low, from in to out, from side to side. So when you add all of those dimensions, it's really hard to hit a moving target, and Wilder's been a master of eventually catching up with his opponent and putting him to sleep. So he caught Fury upside the head in the 9th round and drops him. Fury gets up pretty quickly, and then Wilder, you know, kind of empties his gun and is pretty spent by the end of that round, sort of punching himself out, trying to secure that knockout, probably knowing that he needs something big to turn this fight around, because again, most of us watching the fight thought that he was down on the cards. Some will argue that he was down by a couple rounds. Some will argue that he was down 3 rounds. I don't know how any of the judges could have had Wilder winning that fight. Mathematically, it just doesn't make any sense, because you cannot find 4 non-knockdown rounds to give Wilder. 2 of the rounds that Wilder won were the rounds that he scored the knockdowns in, and then you could maybe give him 2, possibly 3 other rounds. It's hard to give him more than 2 other rounds, but I don't have a problem with the draw. I think that that was a fair call. What I do want to revisit is the getup from Tyson Fury, and that's because the way that he was flattened in the 12th round, everybody jumped out of their seats like, oh my God, Wilder did it. He rallied back after being dominated by this guy and was able to knock him out in the 12th round. Just because the way that Fury went down. I mean, sometimes you see the ref start the count, and if the guy's just laying there by the time the ref gets to 5, 6, he'll just wave the fight off. Like, it's not even worth me counting this guy out. which is a mistake on the ref's part. He's supposed to conduct a full 10 count to give the guy a chance to get up. But Fury was just laying there for at least the first 5 seconds of the count, and I'm thinking like, yeah, he's motionless, he's cooked, you know, he's done. And then all of a sudden, he just gets up, and within like 4 seconds, by the time the ref gets to 6, he makes it back up on his feet and is lucid enough to start moving around and continuing the round. Not only did he continue that 12th round, which again, Wilder finally lands flush with the right hand, and as Tyson Fury is going down, catches him again with a left hook on Fury's way down. It was looking really ugly for Fury. But once he made it back up, he actually hurt Wilder twice in that round, to where by the end of the 12th round, Wilder's the one who doesn't want any part of this. He's good, he's done. And that was for the rest of the 12th round, a round that Wilder needed to win big to even have a chance at making this a draw or a win. But he could have really used a second knockdown, but after getting hurt by Fury, after knocking Fury down in the 12th, that wasn't going to happen. Wilder was hurt, and he looked like he didn't have any more big punches in him, and that he was worried about getting flattened at that point by Fury. But let's also not overlook the fact that Wilder was able to generate enough power. If you've boxed, sparred, or even worked bags, or even just shadow boxed the air, if you start throwing punches, do it for a couple minutes and let me know how your shoulders feel, how your arms feel, how your back feels when if you're moving around. It's a very exhausting thing, and so think about how tired you have to be in the 4th round, 5th, and 6th round. That's why in so many professional fights, we see the fighter losing power by the late rounds, to where the punches don't even look that scary anymore. I mean, they're throwing them like professionals, but there's not a whole lot on them by that point. But you want to talk about sustained power. Wilder was able to score his knockdowns of Tyson Fury in the 9th round and in the 12th round. That's an immense amount of heart, and just the endurance required to be able to set the punch up and then to land the punch against a guy who is an undefeated fighter, 6'9", and doing this different level changing, giving you this different movement, being able to commit to your power, to your punches, and to believe that you can still land big shots deep into the 12th round speaks volumes of what Deontay Wilder brings to the table. But man, what a fight. Where do you go from here? And I'm going to have another video about where you go from here, but there are going to be a lot of people who want this rematch, because this, again, was a fantastic fight. I personally think that from Wilder's perspective, since although Fury was the lineal champ, meaning to be the man, you got to beat the man. Sometimes people relinquish their titles and so forth, but Fury had never lost after winning the championship against Vladimir Klitschko. He dropped his belts because of the inactivity and so forth. But Deontay Wilder in this case is the champ. And he held on to the title. Even if you felt like Tyson Fury should have won that fight, Wilder came out of that fight still holding on to that title. So with that said, if he's looking at his options, you have to consider, all right, do you want to give this guy an immediate rematch, or is it time to go ahead and make this Anthony Joshua fight happen? Even if the fight has to be carried on Eddie Hearn's DAZN, is it now time for that fight to go down? Because the fight that's least likely to happen after this last fight is Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. First of all, I get the impression that Anthony Joshua doesn't want to fight Tyson Fury, period. He actually issued a statement saying that even if Tyson Fury won this fight against Wilder, he might still take the fight against Wilder next. And Anthony Joshua being the biggest star out of these three and having the biggest fights, you know, being the popular British fighter with the country on his back, and with this DAZN deal, and with, you know, being able to pack Wembley Stadium and so forth, he's a superstar. So in these negotiations, he's more or less been the one calling the shots with Eddie Hearn, his promoter. A rematch between Wilder and Fury obviously has to happen, but the question is, does it have to happen now? Or can Wilder go ahead and finally handle business, being that he came out of this last very dangerous fight against the great Tyson Fury, still holding his title, he being Wilder, making it out of here with his title. Win or draw, he made it. He survived. But I think it's finally time to make Wilder versus Joshua a reality, man. Wilder has now built his stock up enough, even though those who had heard the legend of Deontay Wilder and his power might not have been impressed by his performance in most of those rounds against Fury. Because again, Fury was kind of whooping that behind, not dominating, but clearly winning most of those rounds. Wilder was doing just enough because he was doing some jabbing himself. And when he wasn't able to find Fury with the left hook or with the straight right, the jab is kind of what was keeping Wilder afloat for a lot of that fight. So let's not discount that either. But in terms of forging the path forward, I think that now's the time for Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua, and Deontay Wilder's camps to go ahead and get it done. And then, if Deontay Wilder survives that, maybe then you could run it back with Tyson Fury. But yeah, that was a hell of a fight between two tremendous fighters. And I love to see what Tyson Fury's got on his docket next. I hope he can, keep it together and stay committed to the task. I mean, this was really a bit of a rocky story in terms of what, Tyson Fury had endured over the past couple years and the way that he conducted himself in the ring. I don't think anyone felt that he could go a full 12 with Wilder the way that he did. And once he got knocked down, I believe that almost nobody, but probably himself, thought that he was going to get off that canvas the way that he got knocked down. It just looked like one of those knockouts where it's a wrap. And it's another knockout for Deontay Wilder. He's knocked out every other fighter he's ever been in the ring with. So that tells you a little something about how deep both Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder had to dig to make it out of this fight the way that they did. So we'll stay tuned. Hell of a fight. I actually need to watch it back. I've watched it one time, so sometimes you gain more insights from watching it a second time when you're not as emotionally invested in the fight. So everybody have a great day, and we'll be in touch soon. Please comment, like, and subscribe, by the way.